This is the temporary shortage of pigs in blankets at Wetherspoons. It's a worrying sign, just 1 week into Boris Johnson's New Britain, and it's not just the homeless that don't even have blankets. Cheer up. Get Brexit done! All disputes with disappointed customers at Wetherspoons have now been resolved. There was just one major sticking point, the carpet.
That's very tacky.
In other news, a Michigan family has been passing down a 141-year-old homemade fruitcake as a family heirloom. According to the Associated Press, Guinness World Records don't have an entry for the world's oldest fruitcake. So, Stanley Johnson, get on that phone. Ian and Emma, take a look at this.
Oh, right, yes. We're back to this.
The tiny violin.
Tiny violin. Ah, yes, that's Zach.
Going into the House of Losers. the House of Lords.
This is the fallout from the election.
Yes, this is the aftermath of Boris Johnson's resounding election win.
Zach Goldsmith lost in Richmond, but I think Boris has proved that the first thing you do as a proper people's government is appoint an old Etonian friend of yours into the House of Lords, Nicky Morgan, who was sitting over there last week saying, I've left politics. No, she's a lady now. Baroness Morgan, so she's in the cabinet.
Well, she's Culture Secretary, who will be presiding over the BBC.
Yes.
Will she?
Yes, she's
She
the Culture
sounds brilliant. Yes, Nicky Morgan said she was leaving politics to spend more time with her young son, but on Monday she was back in government. Though, in my experience, one weekend with the kids will do this. She's no longer an MP, so to enable her to remain in the cabinet, she's been made a dame. Appropriately enough, did you see Boris's panto performance in the Commons on Tuesday? Let's have a look.
This Parliament is going to put the withdrawal agreement Friday in the pop dipping, as we say in Wales. Mr. Speaker, I wonder if you can guess what this Parliament is going to do once we put the withdrawal agreement back. We're going to get Brexit done.
I did want to play a drinking game on Newsnight every time a Tory MP said, get Brexit done, but I realised I'd be shit-faced before we finished.
That would massively improve Newsnight, wouldn't it?
It was nice to see Jacob Rees-Mogg sitting up straight, wasn't it?
Yes.
Just that. We haven't seen him the whole campaign. Certain people just disappeared during the campaign, on both sides.
Yes.
Well, he underwent a medical and they examined his DNA and they realised he was a total tosspot. with a hint of hazelnut.
Laura Koonsberg had a documentary about the Brexit election on this week. Have a look.
My son looks remarkably like you. I'd just like you to look.
Oh, nice to see you.
Looks like you could be your love child.
Thank you.
Moving on to Labour, Jeremy Corbyn has, of course, accepted total responsibility for Labour's defeat, except for all the things that were nothing to do with him. And he's compelling all Labour MPs to vote against Boris's Brexit deal this week, just so all those ex-Labour voters don't forget.
He said that he won the argument.
Yes, he did.
That was his description of what happened in the election.
He said in The Guardian that despite losing, he had won the argument being, who is Britain's least electable man?
Who are the two gangs in the Labour rivalry?
They're called Momentum, which is the Corbynite one, and Progress, which is the other.
Like it's The Apprentice. Oh, my God, they've given themselves stupid names.
There is a serious side to this. The divisions in the Labour Party gave Cameron a much easier time on Wednesday than he should have had, because much of the debate was actually focused about the internal battles in the Labour Party, whereas it should have been focused on dismantling what was a threadbare case for bombing in Syria.
According to one embattled Labour MP, every day is like opening an advent calendar of shit. What did one of Corbyn's most loyal supporters, Diane Abbott, do in a shadow cabinet meeting?
Light an advent candle?
Be dangerous. According to the Sunday Times, Diane Abbott tried to do an impression of shadow education spokesperson Lucy Powell. One source told the Sunday Times she's no Mike Yarwood. The performance was so dire that Corbyn loyalist John Cryer considered voting for bombing just on the basis of her contribution.
We're going to grow our own food, according to Chris Grayling. Back to a diet of turnips, carrots and cardboard. Didn't do us any harm in the war, so we're going to have it again.
He said that Britain will succeed, come what may, and responding to warnings that a no-deal Brexit could cause food prices to rocket, he said that we'll just grow more here.
This idea that we're going to grow more food, people don't even make sandwiches anymore. It just hasn't been out of the house. People are too tired and depressed to even put cheese between bread. It's like people go, well, I'll just grow some quinoa and some carrots then. People will just die. We'll just won't eat.
Do you know, I'm positively upbeat compared to you. I think his point is that, you know, we can do it. We can forget, you know, currency. We can go back to barter system. We can exchange mud.
I think Chris Grayling's going full Ray Mears to prove his point. He's going to turn up to Parliament in a suit made of squirrels.
The election result and a massive Tory majority. So now Boris Johnson can get on with his Brexit deal, which he assures us is oven-ready, though he may have to wait before using that oven, as there are a lot of Labour candidates queuing up to put their heads in it. It's the biggest Tory majority since the days of Margaret Thatcher, who, of course, developed the philosophy of Thatcherism, whereas the only ism Boris has produced begins with a J. The Greens lost out in County Durham, where they'd really been banking on getting a vote from David Bellamy.
Dead people. Oh, gosh.
Yes.
The Greens managed to get one seat. Biggest climate crisis in history, one seat. Got to be something wrong with the system, hasn't there?
Absolutely. And I can trust this government to...
Poor Nicky, take a look at this.
Yes, Boris Johnson on a phone-in. Jeremy Corbyn, how many minutes left as leader? This is her new job. She's doing quite well there. He's about to go a little bit mad. There he is. And that's...
Christmas came early.
Everything's broken. So, yeah.
It's the last week of election campaigning, which really gripped the nation.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gripped.
Evidenced by this clip.
Yeah.
Are you excited? No, not a bit.
That could have been me.
Where did Boris begin his final day of campaigning?
He was delivering milk in, I was going to say Leeds, but I could be wrong.
Yorkshire. Let's just say Yorkshire. Let's have a look.
Hi.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Mrs. Bonnet. Are you Mrs. Bonnet?
Yes, yes.
Hello, good
Oh,
morning.
I didn't realise there was going to be this many people.
I've come to deliver your milk, Mrs. Bonnet.
How many pints, missus? Is your husband in?
How many pints of milk has that poor woman got then?
Yeah.
I'm afraid of it.
They're obviously stockpiling there. They know something we don't.
Boris Johnson got into difficulties on his round.
He was ambushed by someone asking him for an interview.
That's right.
Which is, you know, absolutely appalling thing to ask of a man who wants to be Prime Minister. So he rightly went away and hid in a fridge.
Let's have a look.
I've just had a reaction here from one of the minders. OK, don't need to push, thanks very much.
On his face.
Wow.
That minder.
You're not getting near Boris. Prime Minister, will you come on Good Morning Britain and deliver on your promise to talk to Piers and Susanna? We're ready to go. We're live on ITV right now. Prime Minister, we have an earpiece in my pocket. You're more than welcome to come on. Mr. Johnson, while you have 5 minutes, you're live on Good Morning Britain. Could you talk to Piers and Susanna for me?
I'll be with you in a second.
Yeah, I have an earpiece here in my hands, ready to go. Taken inside, into the freezer. You've gone into the fridge.
He's got milk to get on and deliver. He's got customers waiting.
Then he shouldn't be in a fridge then, should he?
The days of accountability and asking people their opinion are over. You just hide from the questions you don't want to answer. You lie about the things that you want to do. And
then you get a stonking mandate.
Get a big...
What has Channel 4 News' Michael Crick alleged about Theresa May's campaign? It says a Conservative press officer has been refusing to allow questions to Theresa May unless they have prior approval to speak.
And this is in the Cabinet. You're not suggesting the questions in Mrs May's meetings are planted.
I'm not suggesting that at all.
Who is then?
Kirsty, have you been allowed to ask Mrs May a question?
Well, she keeps asking to come on, but we're being picky.
Oh. Other media outlets have said that they have no such problems, but Theresa May was heard to accuse someone at a recent factory visit. Have you got a pen in your hand? Are you a journalist? They said, no, this is a biro factory.
Yeah, no, it was extraordinary. I mean, I thought it'd be terribly boring, like most conference speeches, but it was just fabulous. And I know a lot of people who are probably nicer than me felt very sorry for her. But I thought it was very, very funny.
It's a bad sign when a cough suite goes down better than you do.
She coughed so much, it felt like she was going to start coughing insects, like an actual horror film.
But it's that moment when you're talking to someone who doesn't really believe what they're saying, and they're saying, yes, I'm really the person for the job. And everything's going very...
Coughing does not do well for female politicians. Her and Hillary Clinton, their colds have destroyed them.
Well, Ian Duncan Smith used to cough a lot. Do you remember? He was another successful Tory leader.
He never had it that bad, though.
No, you don't think so?
No, it's a sort of much lower-level cough-based problem. Theresa May took it to... I mean, she weaponised. That was quite incredible. I can't believe you didn't feel any sympathy for her at all. Not even a scintilla.
Oh, dear.
I did.
I think I'm coming across as a bad person.
Awful. I only felt sorry for her because of Boris. I feel that that was such a bad day that it was almost a win for Boris, and I feel that's the only... So I feel like I hate him so much that you want her to have a better gig, you know. Why did she sack Boris?
She can't, can she, sack Boris?
Why?
Because if she sacks him, he gets to walk away from Brexit while simultaneously being able to claim that if he'd stayed in the government, it all would have gone much better than it's clearly going to go.
You know, she can't allow him the pleasure. It's like, you know, he's essentially an arsonist who wants to come back dressed as a fireman.
Yes.
Where's the fire?
There was one of her... I mean, she's been accused of being robotic, so one of the Conservative backbenchers today was making the rounds in the TV studio saying she's made of very strong metal, which I thought was...
Well, people say that at a certain point a Prime Minister runs out of luck. It just happens to you when everything's going wrong.
Yeah. It's like the end. It's like the complete end. She's not so much as occupying the office of Prime Minister as haunting it.
I mean, again, it's difficult to make up, but the first letter is F, so it's an F off.
An F off. 15% of respondents to a YouGov poll said that the speech had gone well. 15, which there's no way that could just be the cabinet. 15% of people. 15% of people watched that and thought, yes, that's gone rather well. Which makes you wonder what it would take to lower that number from 15%. She could have stood there and melted like the witch at the end of The Wizard of Oz. She stood. 12% think it went rather well. She's a puddle on the floor. 10% still think it's gone rather well. It's 15%.
Are you sure that isn't just members of the Labour Party?
Looking at the whole Conservative election campaign, was it a debacle, a catastrophe, or a shambles? A catastrophe.
Oh, there was a lot of tossers involved.
All of those things.
All of those?
Absolutely all. It was the worst election campaign I think I've ever seen anybody run.
What, including yours to challenge Jeremy?
Thank goodness.
Sue him right now.
Mine didn't last as long as this did.
No, you...
And I didn't have Linton Crosby's extremely expensive advice.
No, clearly. So were you thrilled when the exit poll came out? Did you think, yes, Jeremy, you've proved me absolutely wrong. Well done.
I was thrilled. I think everybody was astonished on all sides. And I thought, well, I think I'll get down to the count and see what's going on.
Where were you?
Well, normally at the end of an election campaign, you dash home because you've been up for 17 hours, you've knocked on as many doors as you can, you're absolutely exhausted. You go home, you have a quick bath, you get your suit on, you turn on the telly to see what the exit poll is so you can see what the result's actually going to be, and then you digest that for a bit, and then you go to your own count to see what's happening.
How do you have a quick bath?
Well, you have to.
Baths take ages. The rest I understood, but the quick...
You go way back, you and Theresa,
We
don't
do,
you?
yeah. Once upon a time, we both had Rick Astley's haircut, and we stood for North West Durham in a very safe Labour seat
Well, let's
in
just
1992.
have a little look at you in happier times. Here you are in a synth pop duo in the 80s.
Yeah, see? Am I right or am I right?
Actually, Tim, you were in a band, weren't you?
Yes.
Tell us what's going on here.
So, that is Robert on the right and David on the left, and we were utterly, utterly dreadful.
Was that the name of the band?
No, yeah. Should have been. Anyway, we were terrible, but we had a great time.
There you go, which sort of sums up my life, really.
Everything.
Tim, you've been fighting hard to put the Lib Dems back on the map. Let's have a look at some footage from the Lib Dem party conference a few weeks back, just to see how well it's going.
It went very well.
Do you know which political party's having a conference here this week?
I don't know.
Have you any idea?
Couldn't tell you.
Really?
I didn't realise there was one. Is there? The TUC were here. I didn't hear.
Do you know which political party's got its conference going on here at the moment?
Yeah, that one there.
What do you think of them?
What do I think of them? Who are they?
It's going well. It's going well.
Good evening. Welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Alexander Armstrong. In the news this week, there's evidence that now the election's over and done with, someone's got a lot of presents to wrap up for his generous Russian donors.
Not to mention all his children.
In Maidstone, one rookie reporter hasn't been told that the venom in Dominic Raab's spittle can be deadly. And as a last throw of the dice on the campaign trail, Jeremy Corbyn utters the magic words to summon up the legendary beardy man of Barnsley.
The Tories have had 9 years to fund our NHS properly.
On Ian's team tonight is a comedian who did Hispanic studies at university. Presumably he got a 2-1. Please welcome John Richardson. And with Paul tonight is the ex-Tory minister who voted Remain but is backing Brexit. The sort of dithering that may explain why she and Jeremy Corbyn are no longer in politics. Please welcome Nicky Morgan. And we start with the bigger stories of the week. Ian and John, take a look at this.
Oh, right, hang on, here he comes. 5 seats, that's optimistic. That's your own personal exit poll. And there's Boris and the blonde he's in love with himself. Well, didn't see that coming. Big win for Boris. Silence. Yes, but everyone a bit stunned. For those of us who stayed up all night, I think John Curtis just ruined it. And if you're going to tell us the result at 10 o'clock, why stay up? I had a friend who didn't watch at all, woke up and saw Boris Johnson saying, I won a big majority, and was delighted, because thought he was lying, obviously. And it had been a good night, but sadly, it wasn't true. And it does prove the old adage, you know, you can fool most of the people most of the time if you lie enough.
Good news for the Loch Ness Monster as well.
Good news for the Loch Ness Monster?
Yes, great news. It's been a great night for the Loch Ness Monster.
In what sense?
Well, because...
It's going to get Ruth Davidson to accompany it round the loch.
This is exactly right. If the SNP had reached 50 seats, Ruth Davidson had promised to swim naked in Loch Ness, and they only got 48. What did Boris say last night had given him?
Just a massive boner. Absolute stonk on.
He said in a speech it had given him a stonking mandate.
That used to be an aftershave, didn't it?
What's amazing, you have to look at it from Corbyn's point of view, the only warning we had, really, was all the times it's happened before and all the people who said this is exactly what would happen. So sometimes you've got to hold your hand up and say, who was to know? Apart from all the people who knew.
And literally everyone got it wrong. Even the most overexcited Tories thought they were going to get a few.
It's difficult for them to judge a system where it really should be... The number of MPs you have should be reflected by the number of memes that are retweeted on Twitter. Because up until 5 to 10, I thought this is going to turn out all right, you know.
Yeah, well, Twitter had a big Labour win.
Yeah.
But as so often with Twitter, they're wrong.
If you could just rotate your televisions for this. Here's the first one.
Beep.
Buzz.
Yes, that's a That's Jeremy Corbyn waving goodbye as his tenure as leader of the Labour Party is coming to a close. His watch is facing the wrong way, but he's saying goodbye, having sort of lost heavily at the last general election.
Yes, this is the very bad news for the Conservative Party that last week Jeremy Corbyn stood down as leader of the opposition. What did Corbyn finally admit to last week? Ian?
He admitted that he'd been right all along and that the country was now in a perfect socialist state in which the government paid everyone's wages, there were police on the streets arresting you for going outside, and it was what he'd always wanted. It was a pity it had taken a virus to do it, but apart from that, he'd been absolutely right all along.
How did Corbyn sign off his last PMQs as Labour leader?
He sent a letter to Boris Johnson which outlined his 5-point plan for what he thinks Boris Johnson should do, but there was only one problem with it. It had 6 points.
Well, he's not the only one in the party who can't count, is he? No.
Oh, someone's entered Miles's house.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I think someone's moving furniture. Yeah. I'll find out when this is over.
It's the bailiffs.
What will we all remember about Jeremy Corbyn?
The number of people who wouldn't let him finish?
Probably when he did this.
Private rented, poor lives.
Why are you remaining neutral?
Can I finish, please? Areas that have different views on it, as indeed...
So you bring Brexit voices in?
Can I finish? Thank you. I think we've fought a very good piece of opposition to what the government's been doing.
Leave voters, Jeremy. Leave voters may argue that they are betrayed.
Can I finish, please?
I think you have. With everything that's going on in the world, this is the story that's dominated the front page of the Morning Star. Jeremy Corbyn says the government's unprecedented financial bailout proves that he was right. Really, I don't remember him predicting a worldwide pandemic because some bloke in China ate a mongoose. Also, still in the race are Rebecca Long-Bailey and Lisa Nandy. Really, though, I thought they'd shut all the Nandys.
What are Nuttall's plans?
To hold the government to a hard Brexit. And
Yes,
if
that's
Mrs
what
May
Nuttall
at
said.
any point goes soft, Nuttall will be there.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the motto. Don't go soft,
Yes.
Nuttall's watching.
We definitely want a hard Brexit. It's got to be hard to be good. Everybody knows that.
This is pornographic.
Any offers of panto this year?
Of course, there are the shockingly high EU immigration figures that have just come out.
Yeah, record EU immigration figures today.
They're all coming over! Oh, there's probably some in here, Suzanne! Take cover under the desk! Oh, my God! Strange accents and everything!
You see, this is the fundamental misunderstanding about UKIP. We're not anti-immigration at all. We just want to... It's true, it's true.
You see, that's the problem with the message. It hasn't really got across. His basic problem is he's confusing the role of President of America with 1970s light entertainment comedian at the BBC. And the fact that everyone's tolerated him up to this moment, suddenly they've said, well, look, Donald Trump, he's awful. How could we have told? I mean, he's been campaigning for months and months, and we've never had any indication that he might be thoroughly ghastly in any number of ways. I mean, how were we to know? This is unfair.
At what point was it not ludicrous that the presenter of The Apprentice in America could become the Commander-in-Chief? It's like saying the presenter of Have I Got News for You could become Foreign Secretary.
I'm sure that loyalty will be rewarded.
Sorry? What's gone wrong? What did I do wrong?
No, nothing. I think
nothing.
No, they're admitting it.
Are we
It's
moving
made
on?
up.
No, it's just... What, today? Well, extraordinarily, over the last 5 minutes, Chucker has actually withdrawn his candidacy from the Labour leadership.
This has got to be the most powerful programme on television. We haven't even gone out.
At the moment, we're appearing in front of 300 people. That's enough to make a man withdraw his candidacy.
Oh, God.
Bad news, they've just shown your video on Have I Got News for You. I resign! I'm away, I'm off.
Do we have any information why he resigned? Why he...
Yeah, Peston called him amateur. He's gone!
It's the next episode of the demise of Theresa May, who's gone from being the Iron Lady to a sort of flatter version, like the Ironed Lady instead.
So nothing is happening. There was a big coup. We thought we were going to get, a new Prime Minister, but no.
It's a bit like a very dull, slow Attenborough, isn't it? Where the same wounded wildebeest just keeps limping across the plain, and the hyenas can't quite get organised enough to kill her off. Basically what it is now.
Yes, it's about the week of plotting and infighting in the Tory party. There was speculation this week that Theresa might demote Boris Johnson in a reshuffle. Why might that not work?
He said he won't be demoted.
That's absolutely right. According to the Telegraph, allies of Boris warned that if May tried to demote him, he would just say no. We learned more about the principal stance Boris Johnson took when he decided to back Brexit last year. What was that?
Well, he confessed to someone that he changed his mind and became a leaver just to annoy Cameron.
Yeah.
Sorry. He confessed it in an interview.
Yes, well, according to the Mail, so... Do you call that an interview?
Can we edit that bit out so people believe it?
Yeah. Well, according to a reputable paper...
Can we edit that bit out as well? It was to Lord Adonis.
Lord Adonis.
Can you imagine being called Lord Adonis?
Hey.
It's quite a lot to live up to in the morning.
Lord Adonis. That's my safe word. I'm only joking. You're never safe with me.
Right, let's get on with the show, and we start with the biggest stories of the week. Ian and Henning take a look at this.
Matt Hancock literally in hot water, trying to wash his hands of it. That's an emergency flight from Turkey, possibly bringing equipment to there. They're just testing.
Yeah, there is the doc from earlier.
This is the growing criticism of the government's handling of the coronavirus crisis. It looks like the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's still convalescing, unable to attend important meetings. So no change there then, Ian.
No, I mean, that was the shock news at the weekend, that he'd missed 5 of these important Cobra meetings and had been too concerned with, Brexit and reshuffling the cabinet and his impending marriage. I mean, he did have a lot on in February, and so there wasn't really time to organise the country in the face of this pandemic. So, yeah, that hasn't gone so well.
No, I think no one can complain because, he didn't get voted in because of his diligence. So... no one can be that surprised. You can say, the Premiership so far has been unmitigated disaster. What did people expect?
So you're blaming the public, Henning. That always makes you popular.
Although there was one crucial decision he was involved in back in March, which was to keep Britain out of talks with the EU to bulk buy protective gear at the beginning of the crisis. That's according to the most senior Foreign Office civil servant, Sir Simon MacDonald, who told us Commons Select Committee this was not a communication error. It was a political decision, although later he admitted that he'd made the claim inadvertently and wrongly. So a communication error of his very own. What is going on, Emma? What's happening?
Well, it's quite an odd thing that after something goes out like that, you can make the claim inadvertently. Were you actually wrong? I don't know. It now just looks quite odd that he said with full confidence to a select committee one thing, and then afterwards it wasn't the case. But the thing that they've been very lucky about with that particular situation is no one who signed up to it on time has yet to receive a containment. So what they can now say is, well, look, it didn't make any difference anyway.
Do you not think that everybody's been just looking at old episodes of Yes Minister, in which in the first 5 minutes the civil servant says something that's clearly true, and then the minister tells him that it isn't true after all, and then he remembers that it isn't true at all? And I love the idea that it's, was this a political decision? We could ask him now. Was the fact that you said the opposite straight afterwards, was that a political decision? Michael Gove's performance was fantastic because he's essentially being asked, is the Prime Minister trustworthy? And Gove has spent the last couple of years telling us he isn't. That's why he ran against him. So he had to sit there and say, I can't imagine why any of this would be believed. Well, we can.
Health Secretary Matt Hancock has also been criticised for failing to provide essential equipment for NHS staff. He responded by saying, "I would love to be able to wave a magic wand and have PPE fall from the sky in large quantities. Well, if they haven't locked the doors properly on that flight from Turkey, you may be in luck."
There was a thought, though, that ministers in a report this week in The Telegraph were hanging Matt Hancock out to dry, obviously unnamed ministers.
Yes, there was a big promise about testing, and we were going to have 100,000 tests a day, but so far we haven't done that. We've been something like 18,000, is that right, Emma?
But in the first PMQs, Dominic Raab committed to meeting that target. So, you know, it's only a few days' time, we'll find out.
Thoughts inevitably are now turning towards unlocking the lockdown. The Mail reported that the government are considering a traffic light system. Any idea how that might work, Paul?
Yes, red followed by yellow followed by green. And then repeat the process.
Yeah, and the idea is you sort of gradually ease the country back into go mode. So in the red phase, basically, shops will be allowed to open at first, and hairdressers, thank God, Ian, eh? Then... in the next amber phase, the schools might open. They're talking about May the 25th as a provisional opening date for those. And then finally, the green phase is when the pubs will open. Here it is, as the Sun's report. Pubs shut till Christmas. Oh, don't worry if you were worried about keeping up with the death toll. They've got that covered as well.
He's been charged with lying, hasn't he?
Yes.
With falsifying, with the big bus with the figure outside that was something like £320 billion a week going through Europe or something like that. So
we'll have to be careful, or they'll cut this out, and I don't want anyone to spoil the fun of thinking Boris is going to go to jail for life. So at the moment, we're just at the preliminary hearing stage.
Oh, right, OK.
About whether, when he was a public official, he was telling lies and therefore abusing his office. It should be an interesting trial. I mean, very similar to putting the Pope on trial and saying, "Are you a Catholic?" He was sacked from then sacked from sacked by his own reprimanded.
Ian,
yes,
we're not allowed to say anything that might prejudice the case.
Well, that's absolutely fair enough, because I would like him to have a fair trial with a desirable result of him being imprisoned forever.
Without wishing to prejudice the outcome of the case.
No, because we mustn't do that. I'm not saying he's guilty.
Would you like to see Boris Johnson?
Let's deal with your arguments. One of them is on the side of this bus. We send 350 million to Europe. We don't, and you know we don't. No, we don't. You know we don't. Admit that figure is grotesquely misleading at best.
I won't.
The true figure is 161 million, correct?
No, the true figure is 350 million.
In net terms, the real figure is 161.
If you take out the abatement and the money that comes back, the UK money that comes back via Brussels, the figure is obviously lower.
Matt Lucas is so good.
I think that most people will vote Remain if they do it again.
No, all the polls suggest people haven't changed their minds at all.
OK.
Everyone in here, if you had your time again, who would vote differently?
Well, what's that going to tell us? 50% put their hands up. Well, that's conclusive.
No, what that tells us is absolutely pointless to have a second referendum, because for anyone to vote any different, they would have to admit they got it wrong the first time round. No one's going to do that.
No, people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
All that talk about, oh, if there's a second referendum, there will be 80-20 in favour of Remain, not on your Nelly. No chance. It will be exactly the same outcome, because say you weren't happy with the level of immigration 2 years ago, you're not going to be happy about it now.
No.
So if you thought 2 years ago the country was run by unelected European Union bureaucrats, well, nothing over the past 2 years would have changed your opinion on that. Well, and if you were daft enough to fall for that 350 million quid a week for the NHS law, you're daft enough to fall for something else next time round.
There's a poll this week apparently saying that 60% of people want the government to get on with Brexit.
Well, according to a company called Delta Poll, 60% of voters polled agree with the statement, "I no longer care how or when we leave the EU, I just want it all over and done with."
Sort of dignitas, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
When's the appointment?
Yeah.
What is this order? What do you want? Do you want it over with, or do you want it fought out?
Open the box! Take the money!
Just glad to see divided Britain in action.
That was a second referendum.
That was it.
You know, when he says stuff, it doesn't have to be practical. It doesn't have to be true, because he's a liar. He's a liar and he's a racist. He's a friend of Piers Morgan's. There's...
No, come on, no.
There he is. Piers Morgan said he was.
No, Andy, no. Piers has got no friends, you know that.
Well, let's look at how his ban would work in practice. It's quite simple, actually. Trump explained what border guards would say when faced with travellers trying to enter the country. They would say, "Are you Muslim?" And if the answer is yes, they wouldn't be allowed into the country. So it's a very workable way of doing it. So I think in answer to your question, who would be allowed into the country under his system, it's anyone.
He's getting the backwash now, even from places like Dubai, where lots of investments, they don't want his name attached to it, they're pulling out. They're not actually... Trump trinkets sold big in the Middle East. Trump toothpaste, Trump toothbrushes.
Really?
Yeah.
Trump toothbrushes?
Well, I'm making Trump toothbrushes.
Oh, right, 'cause you wouldn't want anything to do with him in your mouth. And how did Britain first get involved in Trump's recent remarks?
He said that London was...
no-go areas.
London was a no-go area.
For certain police officers.
Yes, he said...
There's certain places in London police are scared for their lives. Sports Direct. Going there.
Yes, he bolstered...
Are you one of their regular customers?
Yeah. That's where I get my trainers.
Do they still do the ones with the buckles?
They do. Look at the top pledge on the top. We will invade Iraq against the wishes of the people of Britain.
Yeah, but it was Miliband who stopped the invasion into Syria. That's something for him, isn't it? I haven't heard you say much about that.
No, because I'm more interested in the previous one, which you were involved in.
And we made it clear that's so. We made a mistake. There's no doubt about that. But give Miliband the credit for stopping us doing the same thing with Syria.
Okay,
because Cameron was about to get to do it with the Americans.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that. And Obama
You just don't
took
work
the hint.
about it or talk about it. Anyway, that's the difference between us.
Yeah.
Should we start again?
But you say
don't think so.
that the manifesto will only just come out, so the candidate can't be expected to know what's in it. Is the manifesto meant to be a massive surprise to Labour candidates?
No, but when you get... Well, in our party, you have to get it through the National Executive and we have a policy making for the manifesto. You don't know necessarily what's coming through. I think some great things have come through, particularly when we're dealing with the Leveson report and what are we going to do about making the press more accountable.
Yes,
That's quite important.
You're going to legislate, aren't you?
What we said about that, we will carry out what Leveson said. We wait to see the press...
Leveson said nothing about a royal charter. He didn't mention it.
I would have thought you as a journalist might find that's an important point.
No, as a journalist, it's an unimportant point.
God blimey, you blimey. In private eye, you're sued every day, for God's sake, for what you say about people.
No, we're not. And certainly not about you. I know you've got problems with the press and your private life, John.
I think the last time you raised it, you got the same move. Why don't you be more specific and say it? Usually straightforward in private eye. What's your complaint?
OK, you're very, very unhappy about the press's intrusion into your private life because they revealed you were
never
having an affair
complained
with
about
Tracy
it at
Temple.
all.
And it was very embarrassing for you.
No, it wasn't.
God, it wasn't embarrassing.
No, I made a mistake. I owned up to it publicly, and I was waiting for this one to come from you.
You didn't own up to it publically. You were revealed as doing it.
Hey,
I've got an idea.
I did it at the Labour conference. Didn't you watch that?
You two find a room, and whoever comes out alive is the winner.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
It's a death stare. He gave you a death stare.
It depends who's ordering the room service, I suppose, doesn't it, John?
This is like a terrible family Christmas.
Ritual is so... I mean, what are the benefits of joining this club? What do you get? 10% off sports equipment? I mean, what's the great club that you have to stick your cock in a dead pig's mouth to become a member?
Ian, you used to be a member, didn't you?
Oh, there's a hesitation.
No, I wasn't a member. It says I was a member on Wikipedia.
No,
which
that's
is,
what they all say.
Yeah, which is quite embarrassing, given I spent half the week with tabloid journalists ringing me up saying, have you
placed your chap?
Clarkson in a receptacle. Anyway, no, I was not a member of the Piers Gaveston Society. I was a member of the Piers Morgans.
I won't ask what the ritual was to get into that club.
Did you know people who were, though? Is that the sort of thing they did?
Yeah, no. I mean, they
Yes,
threw...
yes, no. Your final 2 words on the subject?
No. He asked me 2 questions. He said, did you know people who were there?
Yes.
And then he asked another question. So I said, yes, I did know people.
Yes.
No, I didn't, which is sort of my answer.
Yes.
I thought I was the one that was going to get a hard time tonight, and it turns out Ian is. Right, yes. This is...
Is that it? We're going to just leave it alone? Lord Ashcroft getting this amazing story into the public domain via the Daily Mail.
I don't think it's even a story. It's a fantasy.
It's an act of amazing revenge by the Mail in cohorts with Lord Ashcroft, which the whole country has decided to believe. Usually a story in the Daily Mail, peddled by a non-dom Tory peer who gave 8 million quid to the Tory party and is in a strop because he wasn't made Defence Secretary, would be laughed out of court. Well, it's not in court yet, but I was hoping it might get in. But no, we've all taken this seriously, and there's the grinning Lord Ashcroft, who, I mean, you know, if you want to talk about members inserted into, you know, the House of Lords, there he is. I mean, it's a disgraceful story. This man, Lord Ashcroft, who gave the Tories all this money, thought he could get himself into the cabinet, thought he could buy himself a cabinet post. And everybody's gone along with this, saying, oh, great, Lord Ashcroft. I mean, he's a non-dom. If we're doing prick jokes, let's have a condom joke. And if you want something disgusting the Prime Minister's done, I mean, you know, there's loads of it. Bedroom tax would be a good start. There's plenty of these things, and everyone goes around saying, oh, it's about a pig when he was 20. Well, how about being really appalling when he was 50? Right.
Now, David Cameron and President Obama exchanged gifts. This is what Obama gave Cameron.
A custom-made Shinola men's watch engraved with the presidential seal. A bison leather duffel bag monogrammed with the Prime Minister's initials. 3 cans of US Open tennis balls. And a pair of sports towels personalised with the UK-US friendship flags, whatever they are.
Sports towels? It's an unsubtle message, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's get exercising, fatty.
Yeah.
This is what David Cameron gave him.
A volume of the complete works of Shakespeare. Oh, that's it.
On the first official day of the campaign, what did each of the politicians do?
Just wanted to do that.
Cameron went to Buckingham Palace to ask for Parliament to officially be dissolved.
Did Miliband go to the palace as well?
No, he gave a speech
Paid his
to...
8 quid and had a look around the picture.
Miliband gave a speech to business leaders, while Nick Clegg actually went to a hedgehog sanctuary.
Of course, yeah.
Something that he soon regretted.
Really poorly. She got maggots in every orifice.
So she could no longer look after the hedgehog.
I like these animals.
I do.
I'm just saying, why do the Liberals choose a hedgehog? And even Mrs Thatcher, do you remember she grabbed a cow?
Yeah.
And did Miliband have an animal? Did he not join in?
I haven't got one.
I would have liked him seen with a massive tarantula on his face. Farage didn't do an animal thing, did he?
Not that I know of, but...
He met up with Joey Essex, which was similar. Maybe he thinks Joey Essex is a baby kangaroo.
But anyway, this is the Labour conference. It didn't go as badly as everyone hoped. And in the end, Corbyn was not very good.
I have to say, I like him. I think as a person... I do, I like him as a person. I think if...
if he was on Bake Off, which is how I judge these things, first couple of weeks you think, oh, I'm not sure about the Grumpy, I'm not sure about Jeremy. Then you just go, oh, I love that. Wasn't it lovely when Elaine dropped that flan and Jeremy picked it up? I think if he was on... if he was on Bake Off and Cameron was on Bake Off, he would win the next election. I don't know if that's how they're doing but if they do...
That's certainly news that the election's decided by Bake Off now.
Ian, it's the new politics.
You're absolutely right, of course. It is the first conference for Corbyn as leader, and obviously it was slightly derailed at the end by this nuclear business.
Tell me about Trident. I understand the reason why we had Trident immediately after this, you know, the Bay of Pigs and the Cuban Missile Crisis. Why have we still got this? Why have we got this submarine? What is it protecting us from?
Originally it was...
Is it attacks on the underground?
No, no attacks on buildings. It was there originally to protect us against the Russians during the Cold War. And
but that sort of war's moved on now, isn't it?
Yeah, but one of the things about this week is it just reminds you that the Russians are still there.
Yeah, but I've got a box of hay under my bed that keeps the elephants away. You know, it's the same thing with Trident. It's really difficult to prove that it's sort of doing what it's meant to have done.
It is very difficult to prove. I mean,
because my box of hay doesn't cost 120 billion quid, you see. Well, it does keep the elephants away.
No elephants.
No elephants.
We got on question time.
CBeebies, I think.
Also, he was asked a straight question and he gave a genuine answer. They asked a question, which they always do for politicians. We'll ask him a question that's impossible to answer. So, would you ever press the nuclear button? If you say no, then you have this reaction. If you say yes, you say, well, you've always said you wouldn't do. So he can't answer it. So what does he do? He actually told the truth.
Yeah.
And no one's done that for a long time.
Definitely question time.
Whether he is right or wrong, I think that's quite a refreshing way to deal with it.
I think the problem was that he then changed his mind afterwards, which is not great if you've got your finger hovering above the nuclear button, to be fair.
I had a bit of sympathy when he said he'd never press that button under any circumstances, because I'm the same with the ITV2 button on my remote.
What is ITV2?
You will find out soon enough, Jeremy.
I've never watched an election a U.S. election unfold overnight from London, from watching the BBC overnight. And that's the way, if you want to watch America go down the dumper, watch it through the befuddled nocturnal fog of a man named Andrew Neil. Watching a man, he's just barely on top of everything. And he just sits there, and he had other people beside him. He looks like he's squeezed in like this. And then when they're not there, he still looks like he's squeezed in. Like his body's trying to eject itself. And he comes out, and he's trying to explain the Electoral College, and nobody quite gets it, because it's impossible to explain it. Somebody's got to get it 270. And now you're watching his scoreboard at a bowling alley. And then finally they give up, and they just bring out this guy who just dances on a map. He dances on a map, and he's trying to show all the states with his feet. He's going like, oh, there's Wisconsin, and there's Ohio, and there's a red state turning blue. I mean, Christ, Trump is becoming president, and the guy's playing Twister. And then finally, you know, there's just at the top of Andrew Neil's head, spray-on thatch thing, and comes back up at 6:30 and says, Trump's president, and great. Trump's president, I'm watching an acorn talk to me.
The longest TV review I've ever heard. The beauty contest, there were 3 contenders to be the next leader, and 2 of them had got the message that you've got to be nice this year, and no one had told Theresa. So she did full-on nasty. And everyone looked around saying, oh, really? I mean, traditionally, the Home Secretary at a Tory conference goes sort of mad and appeals to the audience, and no one minds. But this year, they're all nice. They're like you. You have changed politics. Thank you.
What I thought was amazing... What I thought was amazing about Theresa is she spent her speech ranting on about how there are too many immigrants in the country. You would never have thought she'd been Home Secretary for 5 years.
Yeah. You'd think if only there'd been someone in a position of power who could have stopped this happening. Oh, it's you.
She said she was not going to allow EU migrant quotas. Never in 1,000 years, is what she said, which is terrifying, because that means she's planning to rule for a millennium. Why do you think she said it now? about migrants.
People are saying she's going to position herself to say we need to come out of the EU to stop all these migrants coming in. Or they won't stop me and you because we're already here.
Bad luck, Theresa. I'm here taking up a white comedian's job right now.
Donald Trump is awarded the title of what 3 years in a row?
Cheesy what's it look-alike.
Caveffi of the Year.
It's actually Super Senior Club Champion. A reporter this week tweeted the Champions Board at one of the Trump National Golf Clubs. Let's have a look.
Oh, well, that's not rigged, then.
Also this week, Vladimir Putin was interviewed by American news anchor Megyn Kelly, who said, off-camera and privately, he was warm, extremely polite and inquired after my family. No, Megyn, don't tell him about your family. Next, you should notify colleagues whenever you intend to what?
Oh, is this from the Members' Handbook, Alan?
Yeah, it's whenever you're going to mention them in a speech.
What about if you're going to use part of their speech and pass it off?
That's only Amber Rudd who's ever done it, been known to do that.
He's so hurt.
Yeah, actually, the correct wording is when you're going to refer to them in the chamber. The guide also gives a list of catering outlets and bars where you can enjoy breakfast, a quick cuppa, informal lunch, table service lunch, snacking, afternoon teas, informal dinner, table service dinner and drinks. What? No 11s?
What landmark moment in Trump's presidency did the trip signify?
He was about to be impeached. So he thought if he went abroad, he could make more of a fool of himself than at home. I mean, it is extraordinary. He said about the Saudis that they threw people off buildings and had an appalling attitude to women during the campaign. Then he got there and said, this is a magnificent kingdom. I mean, he contradicts himself almost mid-sentence nowadays. He can't keep it up. Yeah. And he criticised Obama for bowing to the Saudis. Yeah, and then he himself curtsied. He does this sort of weird thing and then puts on the award of the great flogger of the Temple of Doom or whatever it is.
That was an ITV quiz show that never got past the pilot.
It is quite extraordinary. And having failed to point out that, you know, if you're going to Saudi Arabia to make a speech about where this appalling version of Islam comes from that preaches terrorism and extremism, where is it? Oh, it's here. Not a mention of it.
They were told at the official dinner he needed to have ketchup on standby. Do you want to know a fascinating fact about tomato ketchup?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to say that one again.
Yeah.
Do you want to know a fascinating fact about tomato ketchup?
Oh, yes.
Henning's auditioning for the Churchill dog ad.
Well, as someone with Brexit looming, I'm a lot more amenable to advertising.
So did you hear what he called you to?
Sickening capitalist lickspittles.
Pretty much. Sneering media commentariat.
I like the commentariat bit.
Yeah.
Just a Soviet hint there.
Why would he say that about you, Camilla?
I said that I was a little bit in love with him only 2 months ago, so I don't know why he would say that.
Well, I'll tell you other things you've said about him is he is a turbo weirdo.
Correct.
A weaponised lentil. An extraordinary half-resuscitated goat.
Because the thing about her is she's very happy. She doesn't believe in Brexit. People thought, oh, maybe secretly she believed in Brexit, and so it's OK for her to lead a government that's
maybe she's
doing
changed
Brexit.
her mind.
Or maybe she doesn't care what the government does. She just wants to be Prime Minister of it.
Ah.
So she'll do, you know...
Well, at least she's not like Jeremy in that sense, because he certainly doesn't want to be Prime Minister.
You know,
maybe not.
They're the perfect opponents, aren't they? The person that will be Prime Minister of any government.
And the one who'll be Prime Minister of none.
Yeah, if Labour wins, she could say, Jeremy, don't worry, I'll be Prime Minister. I'll just do the Labour stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in Brexit. I did the Brexit stuff. I can do it all. I'm a session musician, politician.
Well, this is, of course, a continuing row about tax and personal wealth. And why are so many Conservative MPs just furious with David Cameron?
He published his tax return, and now they all feel they've got to pile in with their tax return. Soon we discover that Boris
earned, I think it was £600 and something thousand a couple of years ago, and paid tax on it, so no story there. But that's kind of interesting. And now George Osborne has published his, and I think Jeremy Corbyn has had to publish his too.
The Tory MPs, I think they're probably sort of worried because it's set a precedent now, and so whoever's going to be the next leader sometime down the line after Cameron will also have to do this thing, and so they're sort of like, holding them hostages to fortune, I think is the
But isn't that
complaint.
why Boris did it? Because he thinks he's going to be the next leader.
Oh, yeah.
I think he partly did it just to show how much he earns.
He does seem to have an awful lot of jobs. Member of Parliament, Mayor of London, columnist in this and that.
Telegraph, writer of books. And he still finds time for all his extracurricular activities.
Allegedly.
No.
The sponsor...